Welcome to the weekly share of the Zera Shimshon, and this week it worked for me some mysterious way, so I didn't have to fibble with the fuddle with the recording. It is base Sivan, and we're coming up to, and it's the 46th day of the Omer. We're coming up to Parshas BaMidbar, which also has in this week's parsha as a parsuk in Shir Shirim, which relates to the giving of the Torah at Har Sinai. So here it is, and the Golim and the flags, the procession of flags in the Midbar. Where did this all come from? So it says, the Midrash says, No'ava ki Yushalayim. They were beautiful like Jerusalem. Ki oisam malachei hashore shehem yereim u'mushlamim li. They are like those Malchei Hashores, those angels that are fearful and perfect with me. Ayuma kenigdalos, that's the pasuk in Shir Shirim, continue. Ayuma, they're awesome like the nigdalos. Nigdalos is a lashon, the galim, which is the flags they had in the Midbar, shenasati lecha, that we gave to you, that I gave to you. But David roya ra'aymer, David sees them and says, Lo yasachein lecha goy ad kanashanya. He didn't do that to any other nation. So Kasha, the mihi gidloi that David HaMelech alav shalom ratza l'rmoiz ala degalim. How do we know that David HaMelech was trying to hint to the flags in the desert and that whole procession, the way they were arranged? Dilma ala shras hashchina. Maybe it's talking about the presence of the Shechina. Oyal haTorah, on the Torah, maybe. Oyal Beis HaMikdash, maybe on the Beis HaMikdash. But Gambe Pasuk Haidem in Tehillim Kuf Mem Zayin, it says, Magi Devor LeYaakov Chokov Mishpatav LeYisrael Mahu Yaakov Mahu Yisrael. So what do you have to say Yaakov and what for Yisrael for? Mahu Devor Chokov Mishpatav. What does it mean? His words were Chokim and Mishpatim. What's that got to do with anything? Of course, what's the Shaila? We know the Torah. Now the Yesh Davar, the Isa Yalkut, that's also in the Yalkut and Tehillim. Zeh she'omer hakasav. That's what it says in Shir Shirim. V'diglu alai ahava. The Golim, I think the flags and the whole procession of the Jewish people were like it was beautiful. It was lovely to me. Okay, the free translation. Kivan shenigla hakadosh baruch hu al Har Sinai. Yordo imay esrim v'shtayim elef rivavos merkavos shel malachim shenemar, it says rechev elokim riboisayim v'hayu kulam asuyim degalim, and all of these angels, that millions of angels that came down, were in order of their flags and their in a certain geometric order, we'll call it. Okay. So, but the Jews were very impressed with this. Omru. So they said to God, Halavai anu nasim degalim kamaisam. Halavai, we should have those kind of flags in that order like they have. Okay. Omru halavai anu nasim degalim kamaisam. Okay. Lakach ne'amar havi eini el beis hayayin. So therefore, it's the pasuk says, bring me into the house of wine, which is Ein yayin el Torah, so nechnas yayin nutz esoid. Zeh Sinai shebo nitnu haTorah. That's Sinai, Har Sinai. That's the Beis Hayayin. Omer lahem hakadosh baruch hu nis avisem ledegalim. If you desire to have those flags, v'chayechem she'ani oisem she'ilaschem. I'm going to do your will, your request. Shenemar, it says in Tehillim Chaf, Yidmalei Hashem kol meishal esecha. Hashem will fulfill all of your requests. Miyad hoidia kadosh baruch hu ahavasei shel al Yisrael. Immediately he showed God showed his love for the Jewish people. V'omer laMoshe lech asei osam degalim. So he told Moshe, go and make them flags for each tribe. Yeah, and that in that order that they were walking. There's two machlokes in the Gemara where if they all were in a kind of square, or they were in a row, one after another, like they have parades. In most of the parades, there's a row of bands or whatever, boats, Anyway, so that's it. So it told Moshe, go and make them the Galim. Like it said, Kimoshe Nisava, like they desired. That's the pasuk says, Lama lo yasachein lechagai. Why didn't they do that to all the other nations? Because Mishum Mishpatim, Bal Yudo'um. Because the Mishpatim, he didn't let them know. What does that mean? They didn't want to know. Shaloi Kiblu HaTorah. Ve'ezuhu Darashin Hervichu Yisrael Be'Kabbalas HaTorah. What did they profit by going to accepting the whole Torah? Haviyomer Dagalim Shemarim Hayichu Ve'asholim Kidekam B'Samach. Okay. So these the Galim, like you were saying, like what do you need? Is this like a kid's parade or something? No, these flags show the unity and the peace that between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Isa BaMidbar it shows in Tanchuma, she Yaakov Avinu alav Shalom tziva le'avonav, she Yisu es aroinei, kefi aseder shahayo ru'im lisabed degalim. Yaakov Avinu, when he was going to be buried in Eretz Yisrael, they took him in the same arrangement that they were arranged in the Midbar when they journeyed from one place to the next. The same with the Galim and everything. Ish al digloi be'oisais aves avoisam, it says in BaMidbar. Each person on his flag, his post, we'll call it, and with the letters, with the signs of their forefathers' commitment to God. Zeu magi devor Yaakov. This is what he means when he says he taught his words to Yaakov. Shahidia, Kadosh Baruch Hu Yaakov, ma shahaya roitzel litzavos liYisrael. So God was telling Yaakov Avinu what he wanted to command the Jewish people when they went out into the desert. Kedei sheYaakov gam ken yichalkem kach, so that Yaakov would also divide them into this order. And then God commanded us with his chukim and his mashpatim. But la puki, that excludes the umais. Shaloi daila shaloi rotza lekabla chukim. Not only was insufficient that they wouldn't receive the chokim, which are unexplainable laws, so shehem mibli tam, they don't have any reason. Elo afa mishpatim, but even they refuse to accept the mishpatim, which is like stealing and murder and things that all societies accept upon themselves. Shehem devorim shel moli lo nichtevu, said things that even if they weren't written, they would have been fitting to be written. Ru'uyim heim likosef. K'moishe kosev Rashi al pasuk es mishpatai tasu es chukaisai tishmayu. Rashi says on this pasuk, and my mishpatim, my laws you should do, and my chukim. It's hard to translate that into any English. The unfathomable laws, we'll call it, that they should work. Gam ilu loy ratzu lekabel. These also they didn't want to accept. Okay. Kedisa b'yalkut Anochi Hashem Elokecha kishen nisgala HaKadosh Baruch Hu al bnei Esav. They brought in the Yalkut Shemoni Parshas Yisro. He said when he revealed himself, God went around and asking all the nations, "Do you want the Torah?" They said, "Well, what's in the Torah? What's in it?" Okay. He said he went to the bnei Esav, and he said to them, you want to accept the Torah? Omer Loi, Maksiba, what is it written in the Torah? And he said to them, Loi Tersach. I'm sure he didn't tell them just one thing. He must have gone through the whole thing, and he said, the Asar Sadibras at least, But he did, don't kill, don't murder. Well, that was too much for Esav. Okay, Omer Loi, Hu Yerusha me Hayrisha Lanu Avinu. It says, he said, well, we got a Kabbalah from our forefather. Who was their forefather? Yitzchak. He gave him whatever. It was a kind of a curse, but an inverted curse, what do you call it. And Ammon Moav, when he went to them, what did they say? Heshivu she'ikaram boyav yaniv. They said, well, we can't live without having adultery. That's where we came from. That's why they're called Amoin, right? From my father. Moav is from my father, and Amoin is also from my nation. Okay, so that's how the whole nation started with that. Okay, what's the Kabbalah? If they didn't want to accept not to be adulterous or have any licentiousness. But Yishmael, what's the Kabbalah? Yishmael didn't want to accept the fact that not to steal anything. Mishum habracha sheborcha aviv, because of the bracha that they got from their father. Ishmael's father was Avram Avinu, right? He said to them, "Hu yechia pera adam, hu yia pera adam." You will be a wilder mensch. That's what they call it in Yiddish. And then, but Yisrael kiblu hakol chukim u'mishpatim. But the Jewish people accepted everything. All the, hini muchan muzuman, mishpatim, the chukim, everything. Hachi karam Yisrael lashon chashivas. That's why he called the Jewish people Yisrael, because that's an important way of calling a person. L'chein tziva lahem ad-degalim. He therefore commanded to give them the flags in the desert. And he didn't do that to any other nation, and therefore they don't keep the Torah. They'll never keep the Torah. They refused it in their very roots. That was in Hashemayim, that we should get the Torah and that we get Eretz Yisrael. And we keep to all the laws and Chukim u'Mishpatim Bal Yadam. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful Shabbos.